Governor Hope Uzodinma there. Now to our conversation on the show today. Governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, says the Federal High Court decision restricting allocation to the state is the least of his problems. The governor, at a special Thanksgiving service organized by the state government, explained that despite the court order, he will continue to pay contractors and ensure worker salaries are disbursed. He also assured that allocations for the 23 council chairmen would be credited.
We are the people of peace. If there is any advantage that was taken, it is because of our genuineness of peace. The preacher said something about peace. We went to Abuja, and Mr. President, knowing the importance of peace in Rivers State, they brought us some conditions. We came back here in this state. First, we did everything that has to with those conditions. We went to court immediately. We drew our matters. And you call yourself honorable when you cannot even obey simple instruction. And you say, well, that's not the problem. No, that's not the problem. It was because we withdrew our matter. Even the matter you filed, and we said we don't want to continue. You took advantage of it and went and got judgment. And you say you claim. Is it not fraud? You ought not to come out and talk to people and people listen to you because it shows that you're not hungry.
Let's explore the economic and security implication of political development in Rivers. Joining me in the studio is a senior regional company leader for security and crisis management and the Rivers State security professional, George Kobani. Mr. Kobani, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Nifemi.
All right, so we understand that Rivers isn't doing badly with IGR. It was positioned second highest last year. A budget report says that Rivers State internally generated revenue saw significant growth, increasing from 191 billion in 2022 to 203 billion last year. So that's like a year-on-year increase of about 6%. But with all of this IGR, 60% of its total revenue as at last year still came from the Federation Account Allocation Committee. What do you consider the security implication, economic and security implication of withdrawing this allocation to the state?
Thank you, Nifemi. Thank you for having me in your studios. First of all, I'd like to, I'm happy that the Rivers State Governor is celebrating, is giving his Thanksgiving. And this Thanksgiving is actually for a year of surviving, the economic crisis. And in some ways, and if I may, it's sad that we should be celebrating the fact that he has just survived. Rather, we should be celebrating, after a year of governance, we should be celebrating that the state is thriving. Yeah. So rather than celebrating survival, I would have rather be celebrating thriving of Rivers State. And like you said, Rivers State is critical to the Nigerian economy. Rivers State is a 7 trillion naira economy, and it contributes a significant amount of revenues to the Nigeria's economy. But as much as you have pointed out the fact that Rivers State generates a lot of revenue, you have to compare it to the state that is next to it, which is Lagos, which is number one. The GDP of Lagos, the revenue generation of Lagos is 5 times that of Rivers State. You can imagine the difference between the first state, Lagos, and the second, Rivers State. And what is the difference there? As an economist and a security expert, I was once the technical assistant to the chief economic advisor to the president under Dr. Magnus Paco during the Obasanjo's years. And what he said once is that capital is a coward. Capital goes to where it feels safe. Capital goes to where it is well received. Capital flees from instability. Capital flees from political crisis. So, so to your point about the impact of the federal allocation in Rivers State, certainly it's going to have a detrimental effect on the economic conditions in Rivers State, the security situation in Rivers State, and I only see negativities as a result of this situation. So the best, my recommendations, as a Rivers indigene living and thriving in Lagos, is that we need to borrow a leaf from the fact that Lagos State has its own politics, but Lagos State politics ends at the end of an election, and they now move on to business, they now move on to commerce, and they now resume economic activities. That is what we should be doing in Rivers State. It may interest you to know, Nifemi, that within a square kilometer, maybe 5 square kilometers, you have the very significant personalities in this country living within 5 kilometers radius of each other. And they live peacefully, they thrive, they do business together without this kind of crisis that we're having in Rivers State. One thing I've realized about politics and business in the South and in Rivers State, my state in particular, is that we take things too personal. At the end of a political contention, there'll be winners, there'll be losers. Some people will gain their seats. Some people will have to move on to greater political office and greater political calling. And we have to learn how to let go and move on and continue to...
You know, some would say that it's not as simple as you have presented it, because we understand that at the base of this crisis is a major political disagreement between the governor and his godfather, if I can use that word loosely. But do you think the governor is naive to have said that the federal government judgment is the least of his concern? Because you just articulated the impact it can have on the economy of the state.
Well, I wouldn't want to use the word naive. I know he's optimistic, and I think the governor is having to address the challenges as they come. If you recall, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu encountered this situation in Lagos State. The circumstances may be slightly different, but the fact was that there was, withholding of the state's allocation, and that actually made Lagos State a much stronger state. So, in my view, I think it's an opportunity for Rivers State. I know that this, and I hope and pray that this situation will be resolved amicably with the political gladiators. Like you rightly said, the governor is the political godson of His Excellency, the Federal Capital Minister. Yeah. I hope it will be resolved, but I believe that this is an opportunity for Rivers State to actually begin to diversify its economy and make itself a stronger economy at the end of the day.
We saw the governor recently inaugurating a 7-man judicial commission of inquiry to investigate the recent attacks at local government secretariats. That incident recorded some measure of arson, killing, and destruction of property. Do you think we've seen the worst of insecurity in that state in the light of the political discourse?
Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so, Ifemi. But as you rightly know, this is the violence and the political upheavals are as a result of, I would say, 1 or 2 very prominent personalities in the state. It's not two big regions or 2 big tribes fighting over one thing or the other. These are prominent political personalities that are having differences. And once there's that decision to resolve political differences, you see that in a very short while, Rivers State can resume to its state of peace and commerce and thriving, and Rivers State people will be able to enjoy the benefits of democracy.
There was an attempt to resolve this by Mr. President himself. The governor recently said that he was, I can't remember the exact word he used. I think he said he was ambushed with the peace agreement, as regards some of the agreements made between the 2 factions alongside Mr. President himself mediating the peace. But do you think it's going to be easy to have these issues resolved between these 2 individuals, considering their rich political history, how Mr. Governor himself emerged, and the kind of statements we've heard them say or uttered in recent past?
Okay, well, Nifemi, I know it would be difficult, but you have to realize, if you're a student of history, you have to realize that in any political contest, tempers can flare. People can say things that they don't mean all the time, and even negotiations can certainly be considered lopsided one way or the other. I'm a trained hostage negotiator, and in the art of negotiation, you always have to think several steps ahead of what the implications of your decisions or the commitments you're making to imply. So I probably say that the governor was a bit younger in his political development at that time, and I think if there was another kind of a meeting or an opportunity for the parties to sit down with His Excellency the President today, I'm sure that you would probably have a more comprehensive, more balanced resolution.
Are you suggesting that Mr. President needs to call the two individuals again?
Absolutely, Nifemi. I mean, this is so, absolutely. I'm not a politician. This is not my realm. But like I said, I'm a negotiator. And sometimes, you have to come back to the negotiating table and with new information, new facts, emerging, the two parties can get together and agree on something that is fairer than maybe was previously the situation. So yes, there's always an opportunity to negotiate it. There's always an opportunity to find common ground. There's always an opportunity to make things better. And don't forget, Nifemi, it's in the interest of River State. This is not about an individual. This is not about two individuals. This is about the good of River State. River State cannot thrive in an atmosphere of political instability. I'm speaking as an economist and a security expert. And the political crisis in River State is impacting on the River State's economy, it's impacting on commerce, and it might ultimately impact on security in the Niger Delta.
It's hard to find people who can discuss these issues without necessarily supporting one side of the divide. I remember speaking with Samuel Nosike, who is a pro-Wike politician, and is also on the list of those who have been accused to cause the latest attack on the local government secretariat. He did mention that, he did ask the question that, why didn't Governor Fubara set up a panel of inquiry when the House of Assembly was burnt? Why is this happening now? I like to speak from a security analyst point of view, because they say at the base of security is fairness and justice.
Absolutely.
Do you think we're going to get that in this situation?
With the panel of inquiry?
Absolutely.
Well, with the panel of inquiry, Nifemi, it was, from the membership, you could see that it was it's made up of very astute, well-respected River State professionals, legal minds. And I think their credibility, they would not sacrifice their credibility on the basis of trying to put out a report that favors one or the other. So I would say, like I said, it's not my field, but like you said, security is often as a result of the perception of injustice. When people feel cheated, when people feel that they're not going to get legal and proper redress for their grievances, they take to the streets, they take to arms. It was the case I was experiencing in Boko Haram, and that's another story. But I feel that with the caliber of the people in the panel of inquiry, they probably will be in a good position to put out a report that is fair and considers all the parties. But I think, to your point, they should have maybe included they should have, expanded the remit to all the, the violence that has taken place so far.
Over the time.
Yes.
Let's take a short break and we'll be back with more. Stay with us, everyone. Okay. Don't go away.
Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear.
Thank you so much for staying the course.
Thank you, Nifemi. Thank you.
The big question has been, do you think a pronouncement from the Supreme Court is enough to offer a peaceful resolution in this case? Because one of those cases has gotten as far as the Court of Appeal, and it has now been appealed at the Apex Court. Do you think that this issue is something a court pronouncement can resolve without resulting into security challenges?
Well, Femi, Supreme Court is where all minor matters of legal matters are resolved in Nigeria finally, and certainly I would certainly urge all parties to realize that whatever the decision of the Supreme Court will be,
it's final.
Yeah, it will be final. However, you asked about the implications. Now, that is a second issue which no one certainly has control over. The Supreme Court will make a decision how the parties would respond.
The
stakeholders will respond to it. Some people might not be happy. Some people may be happy, but it's a responsibility of everyone to be responsible and realize that the law is what we all have to fall back on. But at the same time, the legal, the NJC and all the bodies will rely. We as Nigerians rely on the NJC and the judiciary to be fair and to read the minds and the aspirations of Nigerians and everyday people of Nigeria, and we trust that they will do that in this case.
The feelers we're getting from the Fubara administration is that it is not in any way affected by this crisis, that business is booming, they are going ahead, building infrastructures and what have you. Is that the situation in Rivers as we speak? Would you say that the economy of that state is not in any way challenged by this political crisis?
Again, no, it is challenged by the fact that political crisis causes people to not want to invest in a location. It causes people to hold back their investments and watch. And Rivers State has been affected by this several times in the past. One advantage that Lagos State has had is that, like I mentioned before, Lagos State has enjoyed almost 2 decades of political stability from one successful administration to the other. There is succession planning, there is continuity of projects, there's continuity of purpose and direction in Lagos State. And that Rivers State has not really enjoyed the benefits of that over the past, since 1999. I wish.
We thought that was going to happen with Wike and Fubara, but it didn't.
Yes, I totally agree with you. So that continuity, that stability is necessary for a state to continue to thrive and make progress. But to your point about revenue and the withholding of allocation, you have to realize that Rivers State also has a significant amount of IGR, internally generated revenue, and Rivers State also has a significant amount of commercial activity that thrives even outside the federal allocations. And states should actually not be dependent or so dependent on federal allocation. And I think, like I said, this is an opportunity for Rivers State to strengthen its economy, strengthen its oil and gas sector, strengthen its entertainment sector, strengthen its agricultural sector, because Rivers State has all those assets and all those opportunities to grow. So I hope that if the governor is saying it's not a problem, I believe he's saying this because he will focus on strengthening the other aspects of the Rivers State economies and make sure that this does not impact Rivers State too significantly. But I hope and pray that ultimately there will be a political resolution and we'll find peace in Rivers State.
How well would you say the police is faring? Because they seem to have enough time, the intel and then the ability to read the room, especially with the court cases, the statements from the politicians. Do you think that we are building enough security infrastructure in that part of the country to arrest any form of uprising?
Yes, I would say yes, Nifemi. In fact, to be honest with you, as a security as a security director, I even feel that the Rivers State, as well as the larger Niger Delta, is actually too militarized. If you're in a location, if you're in a state, if you're in a location where there's too much help, there's an overtly significant presence of security, it means that something is wrong. So in terms of security deployment in the state, I believe the police is well prepared. And I would even suggest that we even tone down the amount of security presence in Rivers State, because it creates an atmosphere of uncertainty. It creates an atmosphere of desperation. Let me give you one very quick story. I had a few colleagues coming in from abroad some years ago. They landed in Lagos. Their first entry into Nigeria was in Lagos. And it was a nice Lagos evening. The Lagos State government and found they've fixed the roads to the airport. It was a fantastic, smooth drive. We got to Port Harcourt 2 days after, and as soon as we come out of the airport, we see dozens of Hilux pickups filled with, armed mobile policemen and gun trucks and all that. And it just got my investors a bit agitated. They were wondering, why this level of security. So I would say
it sends a wrong message.
Exactly.
But how do you marry that with the impunity with which these politicians operate at times, especially if you take, for instance, the arson recorded in some local government secretariat? Some would have thought that if we have the manpower on the side of the police, it will be easy to resist them.
The police they're making a good effort to maintain the peace. And again, when you have internal crisis, particularly in states and communities, it's very, very difficult for the police because these are not people wearing a black uniform and a white uniform and they're facing each other on the battleground. These are the same people. These are all Rivers indigenes from the same community, sometimes from the same families. So you find that the police sometimes finds it difficult to try to settle these kind of disputes because, like I said, they are very, very internal. And you bring in a policeman from, another part of Nigeria, and they may not really understand the dynamics of what's going on.
Absolutely.
So the risk is that you now, challenge one person unfairly while, favoring the other. So I don't envy the police. It's not an easy situation keeping the peace in the Niger Delta. And so it's the responsibility of the politicians to encourage their followers to behave, in a responsible manner.
Absolutely.
And to have the interest of Rivers State as their #1 priority.
We've completely run out of time. Senior Regional Company Leader for Security and Crisis Management and Rivers State Security Professional George Kobani, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you for your time.
Well, it does sound like the responsibility lies on political stakeholders in Rivers. History is paying attention, and history wouldn't judge them rightly if they allow things to go awry. We're counting on this responsibility that they hold dearly to ensure that they resolve the issues. That's our show today, everyone. You can watch it again at midnight.